You are now in your second season here with us in Oslo, and you have bought a home, and you're planning to move your family here.
They're coming this week.
Oh,
End
great.
of end of this week, my wife and son coming. Not the whole family, but part of them at least.
Yeah, great.
No, feel very good. Winter time, like the snow, was missing it in the last few weeks,
Yes.
so it all goes quite well.
Great. Do you feel that what have the challenges been culturally and personally to start working here?
Uh, there are all nice people around, but of course the mentality in general is quite different from Russia, obviously, and from United Kingdom too. So people here have, I would say, longer process of consideration certain ideas.
Mm.
So, but once the idea spread around the people, it works much faster than in many other countries. So for me, probably the biggest challenge was to give a consideration of the ideas which I was giving to the orchestra, to go further, to go to international scene, to work very hard to be at the top of the league of the orchestras in the world, and to develop ourselves at every single moment, and also to give the concerts as happenings, not just a concert season, but every concert as something very, very special. To get close to the audience, to embrace audience, to have a very much simplified relations with audience, rather than being just we are musicians, you are the audience. To invite and welcome everyone from the audience to enjoy and share our passion to music. So those were challenges, and of course there are plenty of technical aspects which we working on constantly.
Besides being our chief conductor, you are the chief conductor of the Royal Liverpool Philharmonic Orchestra, and you've been awarded 2 doctorates by 2 different universities.
Three.
3 now.
Yeah, 3.
Congratulations.
As they saying, I was doctored 3 times.
Fantastic for your outstanding contribution to Liverpool and the arts.
Well, that was a lot of time in Liverpool. This is my 9th season there, so next year will be 10 years already, and I hope to achieve even more here in Oslo, and I think we have all the potential and all possibilities to achieve even more. I think for me, when anyone gives me a word, I more count it as a word for the orchestra. So even they cannot make the whole orchestra as doctors or professors, so they give an honorary status to one person. But I feel that this is recognition for the entire orchestra, and I hope we will achieve the same here in Norway, in Oslo.
Yeah, you talked already about some of your ideas, how we can reach out. Can you reveal some more of your concrete plans you have for Oslo and our community?
Well, we have a lot of plans, obviously, working with students. I'm doing work with youth orchestra. I'm talking with universities of Oslo, just to go there in person and to give speeches, give talks. At least do not be scared of classical music. Come and enjoy it. It's accessible to everyone. I also think we should be even more active in the local area in terms of our publicity, in terms of how and when we can achieve certain companies, certain people, not just our regular audience. Of course, we should not forget about the people who are coming to the hall, who were coming here for all the time. They are our basis, they are our pillar. But I think we can expand our presence in the city and around. Going to Lillehammer, going to the other places. There's Kristiansand, we were in Bergen, so there are many of those, and abroad. I think the orchestra is a great ambassador of the city, of the culture from the city and from the country. So for that, when we are going on tour, I feel like we're bringing the Norwegian culture into the other countries. And we're doing great thing for popularization of Norwegian way of life and Norwegian culture. We also give quite a large increase in tourism, because quite often people just watching the orchestra think, oh, it's great to just come and visit the city and to see what's around, to come to their hometown and to be there. Like for instance, we were in Japan last year, and I know a few people who were then saying that we consider to visit Oslo just for touristic reasons and probably be in the concerts of the orchestra. And now I went in Japan just last week, I met a few people who said, I went to a new concert a year ago. Then I went in Norway. I went in Oslo, beautiful country. I really liked it. So thank you very much. And for that, it is very, very important. Achieving that can be by expanding repertoire, by doing various styles of music in the various styles. So to be very clear with ideas how we play Skrjabin, for instance, or how we play Beethoven, because that's very, very different composers. And this is work which we need to do with orchestra. And my other area was that we all need to help each other. I found that us in many organizations, there is certain space within organization between the orchestra and management. I think this gap should be much closer. And musicians should know that management, whatever they do in their interest. And management should also know that musicians, they give their best, even if they're trying to ask some questions. It's not because they're trying to make the life of management more difficult. It's because they also want to improve the qualities and the life of the orchestra. So for that, if we all united, if we all share the same visions and we all go for excellence, we can achieve something unbelievable, I think.
Yes. This week we are performing and recording Skrjabin, both the third symphony called The Divine Poem and Poème de l'Extase. Why have you chosen Skrjabin? He is a rather unfamiliar name to many in the audience, I guess.
Skrjabin, I think, is neglected composer, and he didn't deserve that. He was one of the major figures of the beginning of the 20th century, and his music is unbelievable because it's a mixture of philosophy, music, color, and everything. The people by then, beginning of 20th century, they were searching for the new arts, for the new possibilities to explore the world, to go further in their exploration. Mixture of literature, mixture of philosophy with music was very, very specific, and he was a master in it. He was going towards his final mystery, as he thought. The piece which he thought would be about 7 nights in a row, he wanted to do that in Himalayas, and with about 10 or 12,000 performers, including dancers, including actors, singers, orchestras, everything.
Yeah, real event.
All possible spectrum of arts. And he saw that after the performance of that, the whole life of humanity will be changed and will be saved. By then, a lot of people felt that it's going to catastrophe into the end of the world, which was in many ways leading there, because there was time of the First World War soon. There was time of revolutions around, and then the history of 20th century was the most blooded by all histories of the humans. The amount of victims in the 20th century was unprecedented by anything else. So for Skrjabin, there was a moment to change the life of humanity, and he really wanted it. And he also absorbed a lot of different styles and then created his own style. I would call it ultra-romanticism or post-romanticism even in a way, because he was inspired in many ways, of course, by music of Wagner, Richard Strauss, and also Chopin, especially in early Skrjabin time. He also already got a connection with French Impressionism. There's a lot of Debussy or Ravel in his music. He also got amazing orchestrative skills from Rimsky-Korsakov, with whom actually they shared the vision on the color in the music. Rimsky-Korsakov is less known fact. He also had, towards the end of his life, he also had this vision of different color related to different key, to different tonalities. And all that, plus his philosophical vision, made absolutely unbelievable results. I just wonder what would happen if he was still alive in 20s. He died 1915 very, very soon at the age of 43 and composed just 5 symphonies, all of them programmed, and started to compose this final mystery. But what he could achieve is really very difficult to know. He even did his whole tonal system, harmonical system, which was different from Schoenberg, for instance, who went at the same time. It's not dodecaphonic, it's not serial music. It's just a different system of dissonance and consonance. For instance, chord in Prometheus, which opened the piece, it's a chord of universe, as he called it. It contained all the keys, all the notes, but it doesn't feel like cluster or like dissonance. It's consonant chord. So his exploration and his sensitivity to the colors and sensitivity to the timbres of the orchestra is nothing to compare with, because nobody after him explored this branch further. You know, for instance, Schoenberg had massive influence in the 20th century. Stravinsky had massive influence in the 20th century. After Skrjabin, early Prokofiev was close, and early Szymanowski was also in style of Skrjabin for a while, but then they elaborated something different. Of course, difficulty of music by Skrjabin that it's very, very complex in times of rehearsal. So when you rehearse it, it's a lot of things you need to do in a very short time. That's why the Third Symphony, for instance, had 9 rehearsals with the orchestra before its premiere in 1905. And the orchestra was quite skilled in Paris by then. So I hope that name of Skrjabin will come up in repertoire and his pieces will be performed as frequently as pieces of other composers of beginning of 20th century, as Stravinsky, as Ravel, as Berg, as Schoenberg.
Yes, in a few weeks we're doing Mahler 10th, and they were absolutely contemporaries, of course. The 10th Symphony was finished in 1910.
It wasn't finished.
No, of course it wasn't finished.
Mahler finished about, I would say, 70% of it. And then the version we play is Derek Cook version, who completed this piece. There are a few versions of Mahler 10 completed by different people. I think that one, in my point of view, is as close to the Mahler as it can be. It's even like, if I wouldn't know that the symphony completed by someone else, I would think that it was pure Mahler completion.
But do you see a connection between, you mentioned Schoenberg and Alban and Skrjabin to Mahler?
Of course, Mahler had a lot. In his last symphony, starting from 7th, 8th is slightly different because that's contribution to the world. This is philosophically related to Skrjabin music in a different way. Skrjabin was more in cosmocentrism, when the perception of human is in the center of the universe. Mahler, I think, more believed in God, either this or that God. And that's different. But 7th Symphony by Mahler, 9th Symphony and 10th Symphony, they are towards this harmonic language and towards this complexity, as Skrjabin had. And they also give this unbelievable emotional effect on the audience. Skrjabin music always, he was very neurotic nature himself, and by the memories when his music was played, he was jumping on his chair, he was rotating around, he was shivering around, and he, in his life, he also had constantly kind of hype in his temperament. He always had different ideas, and he always was on the up, as it's possible to say. And effect on the audience, usually it's overwhelming, because the amount of emotions in his music is probably bigger than in any other pieces.
Let's hope the audience gets, I'm sure they will, this week.
Well, that's a big pieces of music, but I think they will enjoy it.
Yes, and you paired it with Brahms' Schicksalslied. Why?
There's a lot of Brahms actually in Skrjabin music too. In slow passages, there's a lot of orchestration which he took from Brahms, and a lot of patience, which also this sort of slow burn, which exists in almost any Brahms compositions. And there's also a different aspect of faith. Schicksalslied is Song of the Destiny, and this is another destiny. Destiny as Brahms have seen, about humanity at the sunshine, I would say the glorious time. The difference is that Brahms lived in the 19th century, of course with wars and dramas and everything, but in general people were thinking that we going towards bright and amazing future while conquering something, and you can see slow improvements of the life condition in the 19th century. And then towards the end of 19th century, beginning of 20th century, this process of research and of finding and of life was much intensified. Aviation was created, telephones were created, radio was created, electricity had a very widespread. Space theories were already there. And also industrial revolution was very, very much in place everywhere. So the world became to be much more connected. The same as now, we have a next generation of connections in the world through the social networks, through the internet, through the different skills. And where it leads us to, that's a question, 21st century so far in a world time was a story of crisis almost constantly. Economically, the world is in crisis. There are still plenty of military conflicts. People suffer, people die. And by then, more than 100 years ago, of course, the life became to be much more complex than it was before. That's why the compositions became to be also quite complex. They were searching reflections of their life.
That's what we do in music, anyhow.
Yeah, we always try. Even if now I would say the music nowadays came to two different dimensions, either to simplify itself to the level when you don't need to think when you're listening to the music at all. Basically, music to switch off your brain. Or the music which goes very, very complex. Some of the contemporary musics really can be understood only after very, very, very long study of this piece. And as well as many processes in our modern society. But I think in case of Skrjabin, as in case of any great music, this complexity lays below the emotional level. So music ultimately is about emotions, about emotional effect. And again, with Skrjabin, you won't think about the complexity when you're listening to his music, and that's most important. It's we as orchestra members, we need to study that, of course, but when you listen, you think about beautiful melodies, you think about harmonies, you think about the fights, you think about the pleasures, everything what's in his music.
Yes. So let's have a energetic and emotional week.
Of course we'll do.
Yes, and come to the concert and explore.
Please, please come to the concert. You will have fun there.